We are live. Good evening, all. I'm Coach A, Annette Latigue, here at Coaching You For You. I'd like you to see us on YouTube. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, ring the bell, and share. This is one of those times when we want to be sure you put all of our business in the street. So, welcome to Coaching You For You. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube. I have some very great discussion planned for you tonight. We have Jean, Josh, and Natalia. And so, what we typically do is allow each person to introduce themselves a little bit. So, Jean, we're going to start with you.
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Brother Gene. I live in Trenton. Originally from Newark. I lived down here 14 years now. Married a Trenton girl. For the
You did
most
everything.
part, and so I've a member of several organizations, sit on a few boards. As a matter of fact, for nearly 5 years, I've been on the school board. And so I guess a fun fact is that I have 6 adult children, 17 grandchildren, and 11 great grandchildren.
Good for you.
Yeah, so
All
that's
right.
me.
Josh?
Nice.
Well, with all due respect, I'll let the lady go first.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay.
I'm Natalia Armstrong, a community advocate here in the city of Trenton. I shouldn't say I wear many hats, but my hands are in a few initiatives. I'm currently advocating for reparations for African American people here in the United States. And that's it.
Okay, and I'm Josh Waring, and I am a content strategist who helps content creators from brands and companies get a more innovative approach to their content creation and attract their ideal audience.
Josh has been instrumental in helping me with a few things. So he's also well traveled. And so, as a fun fact, Josh, just tell us about one of your fun places, your most fun places.
Well, the most recent one, and certainly eye-opening, was Egypt, as I'm sure you remember, boss. So, as my boss knows, I travel around the world alone. I'm an only child, so it's just a habit of mine to be alone and be comfortable with myself. So it's a lot easier for me to integrate and actually take in a culture and breathe it in and become a part of it and actually understand the similarities. Because as we all know, and we'll get into, there's more similarities and differences, but certain people are focusing on the differences instead of the similarities, which is why we're in the situation. So traveling opens the door and opens the perspective, which is what we want more in this world.
That's right. And so again, I'd like to welcome everybody, and let's start the conversation. I will volley. Diversity matters. Matters in that it impacts everything we do. And as long as there's a fence and the table is short, the game nor the field is level. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fence a little bit. Let's talk about the table a little bit, how we extend it, and let's talk about why it matters. Natalia.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought I missed something. Diversity matters because, let's see, if your interests aren't wherever it is, right? Political, social, economic, if your needs, your wants, your interests aren't there, then you don't exist really. So it's important that we be inclusive of everyone that lives here, because like Josh said, we have more similarities than we do differences. So it's important that your interests are at any table, wherever you sit. It's important that your interests are there.
Okay, I have some background noise. It's almost like there's some water or something going on. So I just want to be mindful of that. Gene.
My mic is muted.
Oh, let me mute mine.
So I think that I think that Sister made a very good point. Diversity is what we exist, right? But inclusivity is critical, right? And when I think about inclusivity, it's like diversity is that you're invited to the party. Inclusivity is that you're asked to dance, right?
There you go.
So it's important that not only are we in the room, but we're actively participating in whatever activity that's going on, right? So in doing that, you expand the table, right? I think you mentioned it earlier.
Yes.
So I really think that inclusivity, and then like people get caught up in diversity. Like diversity isn't just race, gender, creed, national. Diversity of thought is what will drive change, right? I had a conversation with someone earlier today, and I said, remember that old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
My friend.
So if we're both angry about the same thing and we have differences, we could put our differences on the back for a little while so we could deal with this thing that's affecting both of us, right? So anyway, so yeah, I thought that inclusivity point, sister, I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. So am I coming across clearly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, Josh.
And absolutely, I'm just going to add on to the brilliant points posed already, because, diversity does provide that insight. And when you have that inclusivity, you're allowed to share your perspective as someone from a different background. So as Brother Gene said, as Miss Italia said, if you don't have that perspective, then you can't actually be inclusive, because you have no idea what the inclusivity is for those other people. So I think a wonderful example for those who still may not understand. So this is for those in the back who still don't get it. A great example would be President Barack Obama. He was able to add inclusion, right, and add that diversity and perspective from a position of actual prominence that can make change. So the next step, as we all know, would be CEOs, executives, as my boss would know, right? Things of that nature, business owners. So this is a very exciting time that everyone is consciously aware of the issue and can do their part moving forward from now on. So there's no more excuses, right, at this point. So we need some more time for that. We need some more strategy sessions. We need some more think tanks. Nah, we understand exactly what needs to happen, because the children of our generations already know what needs to happen, because they're not raised with that in their mindset. I mean, excuse me, they're raised with that in their mindset, but they're not born with that mindset, excuse me.
And so when we talk about thank you all. When we talk about diversity matters, it matters, but the matters connected to it. And you guys already hopped over into that by talking about being inclusive. Diversity is simply about understanding differences, as far as I'm concerned. That's what diversity means to me. Being included is about the table. So let's talk about that a little bit. The table and the matters associated with it. Because here's what I want to land with tonight, now, and in the end. They don't have to invite you to the table. Bring your own chair if necessary. I don't care how you get there. Just get there if you can. That's a song. I'm going to sing that later, but not right now. Everybody knows I love to sing. So, Josh, I'm going to start with you this time. Let's talk about the table and how and why it needs to be extended, and how the fence is built around it to prevent it from happening.
Absolutely wonderful metaphor, boss, because the table is responsible for all the decisions that impact people around the world. And I can say with complete certainty, since the beginning of time, human beings have always congregated together to make group decisions for the betterment of the group. And usually the people making the decisions are typically the wisest, the most informed, the most intelligent, and the one with usually the most of the resources. However, if a certain group of people have a stranglehold on the resources and the information intentionally, And then those who aren't invited to the table are the ones suffering after those decisions are being made. Then not only are you having an offense and the table is not extended, there's no room for any other chairs. You got to be invited. You got to even have to be aware that there is a table. Some people aren't even aware there's a table.
Right.
So that's why it's necessary to extend that table so people can grow up with this perspective of the table is required, and having a seat at that table is required to make the change that we all individually and collectively would like to see.
And not one person who wants the opportunity and is capable of bringing to the table what they want to see should be excluded under any circumstances. And that's where diversity and accepting differences come into play. Come on, Gene.
Okay, brother Josh, that was outstanding.
Thank you,
know,
sir.
I said of
I've
several
groomed
people.
him well.
Yeah, go, you've done a great job, sister. I'm like, ooh, a few people said, ouch. but I think that so for me, diversity and inclusion are
Mhm.
ultimately about liberation,
Yes.
right? So we've been wanting to be free since slavery, right? But we can only liberate ourselves if we change the way we think about things, right? And so one of the things that happens for me is that you might have the table might be located in a small room, right? But you need the voices of the entire community in order to ultimately get to that resolution. So leadership requires active listening to the voices of the whole, right? And because you would be surprised at how much you could learn from understanding someone else's life experience, right? We all come to the table with our own bags, right? But you really need to be open to even hearing what might not tickle your ear, right? Because it's not always the nice things that's going to get us to the next level. We need to hear the ugly. You need the good, the bad, and the ugly if we're going to deal with transformation. And so for me, diversity and inclusion and liberation is transformative. And so I agree with little brother. You gotta make a way to get that voice. And you won't get everybody's voices, but you have to be creative enough to find a substitute so you can get down to that level. Because everyone has a role to play in our liberation.
Everybody has a role to play. You
Yeah,
are
I agree.
100%.
Is that me with the background noise? Like I'm here by myself. um, so I agree. But I also think that like extending the table can look like
What might not tickle your ear?
I'm sorry. So extending the table can look like getting up from that table when you sat there so too long. So that's a problem as well. People in leadership, they'll get into particular positions and not let the people behind them know that the table exists, and or speaking of diversity, the correct representation may not be at the table. So, for example, I always say that Black is an umbrella term. So that means you can be Nigerian, you can be Haitian, you can be African American, and still be considered Black because we're Black, right? But we also need to make sure that African American interests, wants, and needs are at that same table so that they're being properly represented. But at that table, we got to make sure that those that's been sitting there for years and years and years get up and let somebody else sit there. So extending that table is important because we need to make sure that we're leaving legacies that make sense progressively for the future.
I think one of our greatest failures, if I might add to what you're saying, Atalia, is we don't build the bench. And so when the players leave the field and there's no bench,
What might not tickle your ear?
where's the tickle your ear coming from?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard that.
So it sounds like the system picked up something that I said and is replaying it.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, no worries. The the idea of building the bench is about diversity matters. Building the bench is about extending the table. No elected representative is elected to serve for life. And so, in building the bench, people have to get prepared. And I say this all the time: a good speech does not a good elected official make. And some people take that personally. It's not meant to be personal, it's just a reality. I don't care how great you sound when we're talking about inclusion and extending the table and policies that impact us, because that's a huge part of inclusion policies. If you speak well and you don't understand policy and the impact it has on the table and for the community, and the need for the community to be included in that policy, we fail. And so failure to build the bench is a lot of what you're talking about, Italia, because there are many folks who get elected and stay around for 40 years. Elected office was never meant to be that. And it's
I
not just in
agree.
our community, it's everywhere.
Right.
That's something that the people can work on when we talk about building the bench, when we talk about diversity matters, and we talk about the table. So thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about where that fence is and why it exists. That fence is everywhere.
The fence is everywhere, and the fence can look like here in the state of New Jersey. Home ownership is the white population is 70% homeowners, and the black population is about 40%. That's a fence. That's a barrier because home ownership helps to build and drive wealth. Um,
And that
it
starts with the banks.
it looks like, yeah, yeah. So these systems that have been at play for years and years and years are fences, and that looks like the banks, that looks like loans, it looks like black people having only 2% of business, the business loans coming to them. It looks like the wealth gap here in New Jersey, which is 132,000. The median wealth is 132,000 for whites and less than 6,000 for blacks here in the state of New Jersey. That's what that fence looks like. And when you have the fence, it's a barrier, and it prevents being included, and it prevents people from properly, equally participating socially and economically in our society.
Boss, I think you're muted.
Yeah, she is muted.
Oh, boss, you're muted.
Uh-oh, we lost her.
I think she's going to add herself back to the stream. You still have to put the push the bottom left button that says mute at the bottom. There you go.
Yeah, I got it. Sometimes it gets stuck. I've been working on the laptop forever because I've had a lot of issues with sound, and that has a lot to do with overload of data. But let's talk a little bit about you, you talked about the banks and the fence there. Here's what I want to talk about. I don't think it's possible to have a conversation about inclusion without talking about solidarity. So let's chat about that for a minute. Josh?
Well, that's a very great point. And just to add on Italia's point before I go to that one, I think it's very important to talk about home ownership is very important, as you also said, boss, with the banks, because And as you know, as a former public representative, when you divide those lines and only people in a certain, let's say, zip code are accessible to these type of schools, these type of hospitals, you're creating, that is the fence, right? Metaphorically.
Yes.
And to your point about solidarity, it reminds me of and I hate to say it, but this is kind of where these, institutions started from. We're talking all the way back from Jim Crow to slavery to all the way back to the Congo with the simple divide and conquer mentality. And as we know, if people who are oppressed, who are already, let's say, emotionally unstable from the PTSD environment created for them to be their new normal, which isn't normal for any human being anywhere in the world. So when you have that, let's say, that cocktail of emotions and reality, it creates a lack of solidarity and a lack of the inspiration to have solidarity. So you have the crabs in the barrel mentality. So the fences are creating a crabs in the barrel.
And that's a very good point, because one of the things people fail to realize is when you're fighting each other, you're not focused. When you're fighting each other about things that don't matter, you're not focused. If I disagree with you, I want to be able to do that and move on. And there are actually four. My mother and father first, Jenny Stubblefield second, and Catherine Graham next. Hazel Stewart, so it's 5. You disagree and you move on, and you move on with the focus. And the focus, this is why in employment situations, we're often left behind, because they have groomed us to fight one another and to be opposed to one another, to the extent that we're not focused on the promotions. We're not focused on getting ready for the next job. We're focused on the fact that I don't like Josh and I sit next to Josh and he irritates me. Get over it. So let's talk about how these fences are built, because most people miss the message. It's really just that simple. Solidarity is the key to us elevating. Go ahead.
I think that Brother Gene could elaborate here on the educational piece, because yes, I believe solidarity matters, but when you live in an environment generationally that have targeted you in a way, it's kind of hard to be so together about it. So for instance, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, even they were all progressive in their own rights. They had different ways of going about it, but they were progressing forward and did great work while they were here. However, it was deliberate tension, for lack of a better word, put into the camps that caused, chaos and ultimately brought all 3 men down. And that's something that goes I think that all the things that we experience today and our failure to come together and fight for things that we collectively need goes back to the founding of this nation, the institution of slavery, the policies, practices, and procedures that were put in place then, that are still in place now. It makes it that much harder. Of course, we are working very diligently to break down those barriers, but I always say, if you don't deal with the root issue, this stuff does not go away. It doesn't even transform. It reforms itself, which is why I hate the word reform. I hate when people say reform the criminal justice. You have to do away with that thing and do something transformative and just start anew. And I really
dig
think
up the roots.
That's where we are. Yeah.
Dig up the roots. So you just hit on something that Gene is very passionate about, and that's the root of issues. Go ahead, Gene.
I saw your face just lit up, sis. So we will never make progress if we keep treating symptoms, right? We have to look deeply at the problems And in some way, we have to deconstruct what exists and then re-engineer it in a manner that works for us, right?
Yes.
But so what happens is, I'm gonna say this, we all only know what we know. Sometimes we think we know more than we know. But what good is what you if what you know you can't manifest it, right? So
Yes.
I go back to I'm just if there's a person in the room who knows more about X, and X is a key component to our progress, right? I may have superficial knowledge of X based on my experience, but when the expert comes in the room, right, everybody's supposed to say, okay, on that topic, this is an expert. How do we do X or whatever, right? So, and we have um, I, for me, if we don't start getting to the root causes of some of these problems, all of it goes to systemic and structural racism, right? That's at the root of it. But we have played. I remember a message to the black man. It was economic blueprint. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, "Study the white man. He is successful and he makes no excuses for his failures." Well, we've been under him a long time. Some of us have worked in corporate America a long time. So when are we going to stop waiting for people to do for us what we are clearly prepared to do for ourselves? Because it's all around leadership. First thing is we got to stop letting people choose leaders for us. The second thing is real leaders build more leaders, because you're only going to be on scene for a day. And if you're gone, then the whole effort goes down the toilet. We talked about, Sister talked about solidarity, right? So I did a post the other day and I said, I am a Muslim and I love Jesus Christ. So let's not let the enemy divide us because I'm a Muslim and you're a Christian.
I saw that.
See, so and they delight in our differences. Like, for example, I've taken a lot of stuff over the past few years from folks. You have never seen me fight my brother and sister in public. I refuse to. You know why?
Amen.
Because the enemy of both of us want to keep us divided, and we don't let go. We hold grudges. So, and he knows that, right? So why don't we just, if you got a problem with me, I'm your
Talk to
brother.
me.
Get me
Talk
in a
to me.
room, close
Yes.
the door, let's have at it. We might not still come to the same, we still might not see things the same way, but we will appreciate and respect each other, and that gets the nonsense out of the way, right? Because you know what you know based on your experiences, and so who am I to deny that? Unless it's math, 1 + 1 will always be 2, right?
All over the world.
Yeah. So if it's mathematical, you can't argue with math. Matt, you know what I mean? You can look at it any way you want. But anyway, so I'm sorry, I just had to make those points. You guys got me fired up. Y'all got this Muslim with the Holy Ghost.
Fired
What's
up.
going on?
What's that song? You got me fired up. Listen, and that's what that's all about. We're having a conversation tonight about why these things matter, why being included matters. And when I speak about diversity, I can tell you from my experience, strength, and hope. I don't know everything, but my experience, strength, and hope has taught me that my biggest challenges in everything I've done, whether it be as an elected official or an executive, has come because we fell to the nonsense. We fell to it. Whisper campaigns are real and people work very hard at them. And no, I don't care. Listen, nobody can ever say that I mistreated them. They might not have liked my decisions as a professional, but I haven't mistreated anybody. They will never be able to say that I didn't always reach out to the side, to the left, to the right, above, behind, and back to pull my people up. My greatest challenge was my people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at that, that's why I believe solidarity is so very, very important. People were angry with me for giving my people the very same chance they gave theirs. And you add on top of that, that my people fought me and rode in the same boat with the campaign, the whisper campaigns, and didn't realize you wouldn't even be a part of this campaign had I not brought you to the table. I'm going to keep bringing you to the table. And if I had the same opportunity again, I don't care how bad you behave, you'll have to deal with that. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to speak to, I'm going to work for what Malcolm spoke about, what Martin Luther King spoke about, what Shabazz spoke about. I'm with it. I'm in it to win it, baby. And I believe that if we stay focused and we can simply pull together that piece of solidarity, we're going to rock this nation.
I agree. I don't disagree. I just, we talked the other day, and I said I was out in the community, and I was disheartened because I just realized how ignorant, and I don't mean it, I mean it for its literal definition, how
Lack of
ignorant
knowledge.
we are. Um and because we lack the education, and in a very basic education. I'm not saying math and science. I'm saying just a basic education on um, how solidarity can help us push for policy that will benefit us all. Is we don't have it, and I was very much disheartened. But I was also reminded just last night why it's important for somebody like myself, somebody like you, somebody like Jean and Josh, to keep pushing forward. It's
That's
not
right.
it's not easy, because the people that you want to help the most they don't help you, oftentimes help them.
I'm
So
clutching my pearls.
yeah. So it is hard, but it's necessary. And it's not new. Prior generations they've done this before, and it is our task to keep pushing forward. So yeah.
To my people tonight, I don't care how they behave. I don't care what they do. Unless they attack you physically, you keep lifting them up.
Yeah.
You keep lifting each other up. Because if you don't lift each other up, nobody else is going to do it. They're going to depend on you to fight. They're going to depend on you to disagree. They're going to depend on you to push the knife in. They're going to depend on you to do everything except stand in solidarity. Change your thinking and keep the focus. Lift each other up. So, extending that table requires that we understand and that we forgive and we keep moving forward. In
So
order to extend the table, Josh, I want you to talk a little bit about this. In order to extend the table, you have to have a forgiving heart.
Oh yes, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and none of us are perfect. So I have to shout out your icon here. It says you don't have to be perfect to be amazing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this understands your limitations, but also have you appreciate your blessings and just realize what's actually going on. So instead of thinking, so as Sister Talia said, thinking on a checkers level, you got to think about it from a chess level, or more specifically in this political economic climate, three-dimensional chess. Because those who are making the decisions at the table of all tables, they're playing three-dimensional chess, with all due respect, right?
Come on, Gene.
Little brother, I don't know how old you are, but you got an old soul, man. I see you've been hanging around with your boss lady because it's.
He's been hanging around with his daddy, who's one of the sharpest people in Mercer County.
Oh, all right, because I hear a lot of wisdom in that young man.
Yes.
You
Appreciate you,
say you
sir.
have
Thank
old.
you.
Yeah, so what we have to realize, funny you use that analogy. We have to realize what the game is, right?
Yes.
See, we don't do well, right? And Sister Italia said about where people are, it's they lack the knowledge of self, right? And because they lack a knowledge of self, they have no value for self. And because they have no value for self, they can't have value for people who look like them, right? But Minister Farrakhan said one time in the 90s, he said, boy, in order to serve Black people, you have to take much.
Much.
You have to be willing to take much, and you have to love them
Yes.
even when they don't love themselves,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
but what we need to do is collectively, and sister talked about solidarity. Those of us who have the map need to share the map or be examples of that map so that people could follow our examples out of their condition, right? Because I'm just going to be candid, right? You know, you watch the news, all of this white supremacy is real. It is ingrained, right?
Not new.
But one thing I will say, there's a whole lot of white folks who now have looked in the mirror of their historical relevance and have realized that what was done to us as a people is wrong. Solidarity means that we collectively come through for the same goal. I don't need you to look like me. I don't need you to go to my mosque. I don't need to go to your church, right? This is all about deconstructing what exists and re-engineering it so that it benefits the masses. If you're going to make a decision, if you're in an authority position and you're going to make a decision, and I'm going to talk, I've never been a politician, right? I'm a business guy. I'm a management guy, right? Mm-hmm. My decision is going to be, it's like the 80-20 rule, right? Mm-hmm. In reverse. I want to benefit the 80. I want the most people who could benefit from my decision to benefit from it. And if I make that, not only am I going to grow the bottom, if I try to grow the middle, I'm going to grow the bottom, right? You see what I'm saying? We have to approach things differently. And most, we live in a world, and I'm going to shut up. All of the systems failed us. The educational system, all the political, everything's failed us, right? And that's why I'm still on the school board today, because Minister Farrakhan said that, it's great you want to have these Black charter schools and all this stuff. And he said it's noble. He said, but the majority of our children go to the public schools. And that being a reality, we need to use our knowledge, skills, abilities, and influence to affect change in the public schools. In 1935, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called the public school system the killing field, because it was taking in these brilliant minds and destroying them. That hasn't changed. And that's, in the school system, these babies come in, they're 5 and 6 years old. You have a conversation with them, I'd be like, whoa, they're amazing.
They are amazing.
They are amazing, right? So we just have to decide that freedom, justice, and equality. For me, everything is based in those 3 buckets, right? And it is knowledge, love and knowledge that is transformative of us. Haven't we suffered enough? And then I just got to go back to a point that I lost. The people who have been in the seats of authority for all these years, and they haven't developed any bench strength, I think that's what you said, succession planning. Succession planning starts in the beginning, not at the end. You have to build these people, right? How did you know everything we know is a blessing from God, and we hoard that knowledge, and then we wind up in the same hole 20 years from now that we was in before.
You have people, no, thank you. You have people in civil service positions who refuse to build the bench because they're so afraid that somebody else might learn a little bit more.
That's what it's about.
A civil service position. Nobody can take your job from you there. Why wouldn't you build the bench appropriately?
Yes, that's how you take over stuff. That's how you come to power, right?
I don't get it. Yeah. And for those who refuse to build the bench, that's a lack of confidence in the work that they've done.
I agree.
Quite simply. And so simply, you spoke to the CASAs, the knowledge, skills, and ability. We have a lot of people who want to do things who don't have the knowledge, skills, and ability. And one of the things we must learn how to recognize is our lane. Be good at what you're good at. Excel at what you're good at. And so I want to wrap up here tonight. We've had a great conversation. I'm going to invite you guys back again to continue it. But here's what I want to leave you with. And we'll each have the opportunity to speak before we leave. I want you to like us on YouTube. I want you to hit the share button. I want you to put all our business in the street. Tell them what we're talking about tonight. And I want you to share this information. If we work together, solidarity means this. I'm not holding anybody responsible for what their ancestors did. I am holding them responsible for what they're doing today. And what they're doing today, for a few of them, or many, mirrors what their ancestors did. They're just handling it in a different way. And to those who don't look like me and are getting it right and understand that the only race is the human race, it doesn't matter whether I'm a Christian, a Muslim, or a Buddhist. I'm a person. And that's where we have to first begin in dealing with people. And so it's not your ancestors' fault, but what you do today is your fault. Handle your faults and or your business wisely. Solidarity is the key to our success. Before we can build anything, we have to have some common goals. And so, if you're in the street playing and you think you can play both sides of the fence, forget about it. It's not going to work. Jean has been on the school board. Atalia works with people across the community, as does Josh. Josh's parents are very prominent in the community and very active in that. Look at what they've raised. And so I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. I like your landing statement. Mine is solidarity is the key. Handle your business. Don't talk about it, be about it. I don't care what happens. I don't care how you feel about your brothers and sisters personally. Lift them up. Go ahead, Italia.
And mine is politics matter. So it's embedded in everything we do. Everything we do. So you have to get involved at some level. So it matters. Politics matters.
Come on, Jean.
All right, my hip kind of had I had to move up, try to get that move
I
up.
saw you. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All
so
right.
I guess for me, it's as simple as this, right? I think it was Bobby Unser. 2 points. Bobby Unser says, "Success is where preparation meets."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So success is the point at where preparation meets, right? So that's one. And then the second one is from our ancestor Frederick Douglass, right? He said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men."
Yes.
Okay. So with those two things in mind, we have to create an environment, a learning environment, right? Where our children get what they need to get where they need to go. And for those people who have fell off, we have to resuscitate them.
Yes.
We have to find them. There are resources that are here, but we don't use it. People come up with these resources so they could be seen of men. Scripture tells you don't do good to be seen of men. You do good because good is required, right? So if we stop worrying about how I'm seen, I'm the guy who did this. It's not about you. It's about no more me, a little more we, right? All right. I think that was.
I like that.
No longer you and me, but it's us and we. Go ahead, Josh.
Absolutely. And I just want to help close out and add to the wisdom already shared. So I wanted to thank everyone here for allowing me to be a part of this conversation. Thank you, boss, once again. I also want to shout out everyone in the comments who have their great points as well. And for my final statement, I would say avoid the distractions and observe the game being played, right? Because the game is being played with the mindset that we are too distracted to notice the game, which is accurate. And as we see each day, we're becoming, overstimulated with all the media and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I think Brother Gene hit it on the head, as did Sister Italian and Boss as well. We got to think about it. You got to think about the issue holistically, right? Because
Mhm.
the cure becomes the industry and thus another distraction. And
That's
this
right.
all is, perpetuated by the media. And the
Yeah,
media is the machine that
that's right.
perpetuates the lack of solidarity and the
Mhm.
misinformation, to quote Chloe in the comments, who is my significant other. So shout out to my queen there. The lack of
Hey,
information
Chloe.
and the misinformation and whatnot, right?
Yeah,
Because as we all know, the economy is based on our, as Sister Taya said, our ignorance and our
right,
poverty. So
right.
that is part of the game. So
That's
every
right.
time that we allow our emotions to keep us in this box,
They win.
they win every single time.
That's
And the
right.
more that we point the finger at each
Yeah.
other, and
Yeah.
I feel Brother Gene's frustration, because I'm in my Jesus year right now. To answer your question, Brother Gene, I'm
Yes, sir.
33, so I'm already frustrated. I've been frustrated my entire life, seeing how we treat each other versus how we treat other people and
Yes,
other races,
yes,
especially
yes.
those who we who we know who are actively making sure that we're staying in this situation. So, I think to bring it all home, I think it's everyone's duty, if they haven't already, to check out Judas and the Black Messiah, which I think is a wonderful illustration of the
Mhm.
points made here tonight and the overall concept. So thank you, boss, once again.
Oh, that
Absolutely.
young man is something, sis. He's something else.
Listen.
The Jesus year, you know that hit home with me.
Absolutely. Before we leave, though, I'd like you each to tell us a little bit about your business and what you do. Just really quick. Gene, you have an LLC. What is it?
Yes, ma'am. So it's Tassin Consulting Group LLC, and Tassin is just an Arabic word that means to improve. And like I almost said my slave, but but it's not, because I'm doing good for the community. I work for Henry J. Austin Health Center as the director of operations, but I still consult on the side, because people only know what they know, and
Yes.
and so if I can help people that look like me to do better, that's
Yes.
my responsibility to help them do better. And just brief phone calls don't cost you nothing. If I have to do a project, that's a whole nother conversation. But the knowledge is from God. So, I'm always willing to share.
Thanks for sharing. And,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
and it's important because I want people to know that building businesses is what I do. It's what I enjoy. Italia, what are you doing?
So I just do a lot of stuff in the community. However, so I don't have a business per se yet. I am working towards my certification. I'm a licensed gun owner, as you are too, Annette.
Put my business in the street.
So I am
20 gauge and a 9 millimeter.
I love it. I love it.
Allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly. Thanks, Regina.
So I'm
Allegedly.
working towards becoming a certified instructor there. So I think that will expand some opportunities for me. But I'm there because why? I want to help my people. It's our Second Amendment right, and I think that we don't have enough knowledge in that area. So I'm working towards that. So I'm not a business owner yet, but I will be.
She is a pre-business owner.
Pre-business owner. Yeah.
Thank you. And Josh, give it to me. What you
Absolutely,
got?
sis. Definitely speak that into existence. And I have to say, look at God, because I actually got a call from a detective today, this week, saying that I was approved for my license to
Oh,
carry. And
awesome.
Chloe actually
Yes.
already had her license already. So that's amazing, that timing right there. Sorry, but yes. So for me, I think one of my greatest attributes is my creativity and my innovation,
Yes.
right? So I guess my spirit is calling me to unite creative and ambitious people around the world to collaborate. And for me, it's a genuine pleasure to add value to a disruptor in any industry, someone who is going against the status quo and
Yeah.
creating seats at the table. Because again, that's always more fun. And if you think about it business wise, so Brother Gene, thank you, salam alaikum and shukran, right? So I appreciate that, because when you have a cutting edge idea, then you're able to take the business to the next level. And like as we all articulated, we're kind of in that stage where we're right at the precipice, but we just need that extra umph to get over. So I like to supply that and and get us on that course. And my LLC is Creative Maestro LLC, based in Trenton, New Jersey.
Nice.
Yes, it is nice. I want to thank you guys tonight. Again, we are on Facebook at Coaching You For You, at What Trenton Really Makes. We're on YouTube. Like us, subscribe, hit the share button, put our business in the street. You guys know how to do that well. Put our business in the street. And hit the notification bell. Josh is doing it, Jean is doing it, Atalia is doing it, and we're doing it together for you. We'll be back again. I will invite each of them back again to continue this conversation. They have what it takes and they have something to tell you. Thanks for being with us tonight. You guys have a good evening.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am. You too. Be safe. God bless you.
Coaching
Sis.
You
Night.
For You is about boosting you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you and have a good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Right.